Taking to the stage right now, Vice President Kamala Harris, as she is expected to accept that nomination.
Many Republican lawmakers say the president has taken the appropriate steps in this first 100 days to make America great again. The former president's team has tried to delay the case before him many times, but the criminal trial around Donald Trump's hush money case kicks off today with jury selection. It's been 2 years since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, but those in attendance say more needs to be done at the state level. Donald Trump is taking a victory lap after a win here in New Hampshire tonight.
These are items that you could easily say did not happen, that you have not participated in any of these things. So why are you waiting until after this vote comes down to actually address these major issues?
I didn't say I was waiting for the vote to come down.
Well, it's coming down
I understand.
The current regulation requires eggs to be refrigerated as soon as they are laid, but does not differentiate between table eggs, eggs like these you use for cooking, and what are called breaker eggs. Former Nevada senator was referred to as a legendary leader who was defined as a soft-spoken and dedicated lawmaker. These pups are only about 3 months old, and when they reach 1 year, they'll start their training, which only takes a few months. The administration says this is an important time for President Joe Biden as he draws the connection from World War II to today, where the U.S. is now part of the NATO alliance. Taylor's organization helps veterans and active military personnel all across the country, including here in Virginia, where one athlete is in pursuit of her Olympic dream.
Good evening, Basil.
Well, Ken, President Carter is currently in the Capitol building behind me as he is now laying in state. And the ceremony for his arrival included a 21-gun salute as the nation now honors its longest living president. 44 years after President Jimmy Carter left Washington, D.C. on the heels of a re-election loss, the one-term president returned for a final goodbye.
And he left the world better than he found it.
Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at a service for Carter inside the Capitol Rotunda.
When Jimmy Carter walked out on the east front of the Capitol and took his oath of office, I was just 4 years old, and he's the first president that I remember.
Former President Carter was first honored in Washington at the Navy Memorial downtown before a procession down Pennsylvania Avenue brought his casket to the Capitol building, where he will lie in state until his funeral on Thursday. Lawmakers like Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer honored his legacy.
Today and tomorrow, Americans will brave the snow and cold temperatures to pay their respects to one of the most decent men ever to hold office of president.
Senate Republican leader John Thune finds comfort in this moment.
Today I join all Americans in mourning President Carter, but I rejoice in the thought that he, together with his beloved wife, Rosalind, is now before the face of his father.
Now, President Carter will lie in state tonight and for 24 hours starting tomorrow morning for the public to pay their respects. Reporting live in Washington, I'm Basil John. Ken?
All right, thanks a lot, Basil.
Sandra Liza Lindsay.
Sandra Lindsay is still in shock after a recent phone call.
The President of the United States wants to speak to me. That has to be a prank call.
But it was no joke. And Thursday, she was one of 17 recipients of the nation's highest civilian honor, the Medal of Freedom. President Biden says she was selected for her work as a Long Island critical care nurse and for being the first American to receive a COVID-19 vaccine outside of clinical trials.
She poured her heart into helping patients fight for their lives and to keep their fellow nurses safe. Today, she receives our nation's highest civilian honor.
Never in my wildest dreams would I think that I would hold this place in history, but I am honored and humbled.
In addition to saving lives, Lindsay says the vaccines also relieve some of the burden on healthcare workers.
My colleagues and I in healthcare, in the medical community, have worked tirelessly to get to this point.
She continues to advocate for vaccines and mental health for healthcare workers and says this Medal of Freedom is not just for her.
I share this Medal of Freedom with all my fellow healthcare workers, my nurses, every single person who worked throughout the pandemic.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John. This is Texas Democratic Congressman Al Green, joined by other Democrats, saying the civil rights anthem, "We Shall Overcome," moments after the House censured him.
The yeas are 224, the nays are 198.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson had Green escorted out of the chamber after interrupting President Donald Trump during the joint address to Congress.
Take your seat, sir. Take your seat.
I was prepared to suffer the consequences.
Green told us in a one-on-one interview he was concerned about potential cuts to Medicaid.
It is important for some of us to take a stand for people who don't have the health insurance we have.
10 Democrats voted with Republicans to censure Green, but he says he was not disappointed because he encouraged lawmakers to vote how they wanted.
What I have done was a question of conscience for me. Vote your conscience.
South Carolina Republican Congressman Joe Wilson infamously shouted, "You lie," during President Barack Obama's speech in 2009 and was reprimanded. He told me respect needs to be shown to the president.
I apologize for, and the president accepted, that people intentionally disrupt a presidential speech. That is just wrong.
Since then, more interruptions have happened, but not all have resulted in punishment. Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says she's furious.
We know that we've seen Marjorie yell at Joe Biden. There was no outrage. None. So there shouldn't be any outrage today.
Now, members of the House Freedom Caucus say they will move to get Congressman Green stripped of his committee assignments. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
I remember the 60s.